Law and psychology, or as it is more commonly known, is as forensic psychology. The definition by the American Psychological Association is, as stated, professional practice by any psychologist working with any subdiscipline of psychology, for example, clinical, developmental, social, or cognitive, when applying the scientific, technical, or specialized knowledge of psychology to the law to assist in addressing legal, contractual, and administrative matters. This can be found as defined in the Careers in Psychology in 2017. To put this more simply, it is any psychologist who works with law enforcement in the aspects of either clinical, developmental, social, or cognitive. They also work with the court system quite a bit. Forensics, one aspect of this is forensic theology, which is actually a subset of forensic psychology. In many ways, it is beneficial to law enforcement agencies, and they have been used in court cases that involve religion and religious practices. It's important to note that law enforcement is not required to use forensic theologists, but they may prove to be helpful. LeBlanc believes that if law enforcement had used forensic theology in relations to dealing with the situation in Waco with the Branch Davidians, that there may have been a much different outcome. And that they also have been used when there have been claims made by terrorist organizations in proving whether or not said organization actually might have done what they were claiming. Forensic theology has not only been used for studying statements or religious factions. Frank Flynn from the University of Washington in St. Louis has also testified in many court cases involving alternative religions such as Scientology or Jehovah's Witnesses. However, when asked, he did point out that one aspect he would never testify for is Satanists. When most people think of forensic psychology, they think of Hollywood's representation of it, which is all action, adrenaline. For example, the show Criminal Minds, the show Hannibal. However, that's not usually the case. Most of the time they are used for testifying in court cases. To become an actual forensic psychologist and treating patients, a person must first obtain a doctoral degree. However, there are some aspects in the profession that will allow you to start work with either a master's degree or even just a bachelor's. Most do require a master's degree, and in order to get that, you would either need to have a bachelor's degree in psychology itself, or you could, many will accept a certain amount of credit hours in psychology to qualify entrance into a master's degree program. There are different career options in forensic psychology. Just a few of them would be child custody evaluations, child abuse investigators, evaluating convicted criminals in order to create their plans for rehabilitation, and evaluating criminal suspects to determine if they are fit for trial. Most of the time when people think of forensic psychologists, this is what they think of, as those who are interviewing suspects to see if they can be fit for trial. The job outlook for forensic psychologists, it varies depending on what you wish to do. If you are looking to actually interact with patients and have a doctoral degree, you will have more options in this field, because then you can open private practice. And it is important to note that private practice will earn more annually than somebody who works as a government employee. A couple of scriptures that came to mind while I was researching this was John 15:12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. And Matthew 20:16. So the last will be first and the first will be last. These came to mind because when I think of being a forensic psychologist, I think of working in the actual judicial system in the prisons, and evaluating convicted criminals as they're getting released to help integrate them more successfully into society. It's well known that Jesus was one who hung around with criminals. Most of his apostles had committed crimes, whether it be adultery, murder, thievery, but he helped turn them around. Granted, he was who he was, but I feel in order to follow in what he would want me to do, it would be to work with the same type of people.